Welcome to Ponchatoula Live. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and today I have not one but two outstanding guests that I'm so excited to introduce you to because they are a really neat couple. This is a strong husband and wife, mother and father, just a great family that also happens to run an outstanding local business. So, if like me, you love to eat, you are going to really love today's program because I have with me today Terrick and Venetria Johnson of the famed Johnson's Kitchen out here in Pumpkin Center. And they have some of the best cooking around, one of the best run businesses you'll find. And today we're going to learn all about them and their wonderful business, their restaurant, their catering. So with no further ado, I bring to you our guests. T and V, they've told me that some people call them. So, Terrick, V, how are y'all doing today?
Good. We're good. Glad to be here.
Thank you two so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to have you on the show. And why don't we just kick things off with either of you or both of you, however, whatever order y'all want to go in. Just tell us a little bit about yourselves, if you don't mind.
All right. So I'm Venetria. This is Terrick, my husband. We have our restaurant, Johnson's Kitchen. We've been in business for a little bit over a year and a half. Terrick and I have been married for a little over 4 years. We have 4 children. And we're just excited to be here. We're new to the restaurant business. We didn't have much experience before launching out into this restaurant industry, but it has truly been a blessing. So yeah, we're excited.
Well, you must be naturals then because your food and service are amazing. I went there for the first time this week with my mom because I said, there's no way I'm going to get you guys on this show without being able to honestly talk about your food. We were blown away. The cooking we knew was going to be great because we've been hearing about it forever. But your service was also exceptional. So I'll ask you later about your business and what you've learned, as rookie restaurant owners. But I got to say, I'm a little surprised to hear that you're new to it because it seemed to be running on all cylinders. The service was great. The food got out there timely, hot, fresh, delicious, everything you would want there. And my mom and I, we can be quite critical when we're driving through the rain to go to lunch. So y'all nailed it. So that's exciting. Now you mentioned your kids, and I happen to know at least one of your 4 children, Chase, your son. What a great kid! As you two know, and most of my viewers know, my law firm has this Bikes for Kids program where we give away bikes in the summer. And a few years ago, Chase won a bike because he was doing great things in the home. I think you guys had recently been married, and he was, adjusting to that process, which is tough. He was, doing well in school. In his church, I think he was a junior deacon. Just a great all-around kid who really impressed us. So, I'm sure you guys are due much of the credit there. And tell me about that. What's it like bringing together, a blended family 4 years ago? I see that. I have 2 brothers, that have gone through something similar. What's that like?
It was a transition, but a really good transition.
Yeah.
I was a single parent for a few years, and if anybody's watching, if they're a single parent, you know that could be a struggle. It could be hard, just doing everything, by yourself, having to come in and take care of the kids after you've been at work all day and you're cooking and you're cleaning. So it was really hard. But God really led Terrick and I to a place where we ended up meeting one another, which we met at the gym. I went to go work out. I met him. And initially, if I could be honest, I was not interested in him. I was like,
wait, what? You're pointing at those guns. I mean, you guys got muscles. Wait, what was the deal?
Well, we were in his training class, and he was working us too hard. I did not like how he was fussing at us.
I love it. So, Terrick, you've been a fitness trainer for a long while at North Cypress. Is that right?
Yes.
So, which class were you in? I know you taught body pump out there and other classes. What class were you taking, V? Do you remember?
Yeah. So I did body pump initially. Starting off with body pump.
Body pump, right?
Transitioned to spin and senior conditioning core. conditioning, and then got into personal training. So I did a little bit of everything at North Cypress before transitioning to Freedom Fitness, where I own Freedom Fitness out of Mandeville.
Oh, cool. Oh, great. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to want to circle back to that and ask you about that transition. I didn't know you had that too. That's exciting. So when y'all met and she's in your class, that was still here in Hammond at North Cypress. Is that right?
Yep.
Now she's saying she wasn't that into you at first. I mean, you sound a lot like my son just left his first cross country practice. So my wife and I were out there shortly before the show. And he ran a half mile. He's a first grader, so it's his first half mile of his life in the humidity and heat of Louisiana. And he was not digging it. And it sounds like me that was something similar to the way you felt about your coach Terrick. Terrick, did this star student catch your eye? I mean, what was your first impression from the other side of this equation?
So what happened was, my cousin actually, I invited her to come to the class. And she said, "Hey, look, I got a friend that I want to bring." And so she brought Venetria, and I noticed her in the class. And so what happened was she was tapping out. She couldn't take the class, and so she left the class about 30 minutes after it had started. And so after class, I talked to my cousin, and I wanted to know a little bit more about her, who she was. And so she kind of said she'll pass the message on. And let her know that I was interested, and got back with me less than 24 hours. And was like, no, she's not interested. And what happened was, I was just like, okay, because I don't get turned down. I'm not. And so what happened was she ended up messaging me on Facebook, and circling back, and from there it was history. Yeah.
That's great. What a great love story. I really love that. That's something we talk about often on the show when folks are kind enough to share it like you are. Our viewers really, I think, love to hear that. So that tickles my heart to hear how you guys came together. Why don't we back up a step? And Venetria, I'll start with you if you don't mind, because I know we're going to eventually talk a lot about your restaurant and all the great cooking y'all do. And in your case, I know that cooking is a family legacy thing, where you have multiple generations from mothers to grandmothers and so on that have passed down recipes and techniques and taught you to cook. But why don't you tell me a little bit about your childhood growing up in Springfield, and eventually we'll get to the cooking and stuff. But, let's just, flash back to when we were all kids and kind of tell us where you came from.
Okay, so I am from Springfield. My grandmother, she is well known in the Springfield area for cooking. She would be like the head cook or the main cook at a lot of different restaurants. If you remember the restaurant P-Rose or Frog's Breath that was on the river. I think it
absolutely
burned down a long time ago. She would do like the homemade tartar sauce and ranch and the homemade onion ring, stuff like that. Homemade hush puppies, and she had all of the homemade recipes for the restaurant. And so she just was a cook. She loved to cook, and then she also was a cook at Springfield. She retired from cooking at Springfield Middle School.
Okay.
So everybody knows her in the community for cooking. But growing up, I would just see her cook all the time. I would see my mom cook. My uncle, he's a cook that's well known for his catering business, Teddy Bear's Catering. And I would actually, in high school, he would get me to come and go help him at weddings and things like that. And I just developed a love for cooking. Actually, my go-to would be pasta. I would be at work. This was when I was a little younger, and my coworkers, they would be like, "What you cooking tonight?" And they'll say, "I already know what you cooking. You cooking pasta." I love to cook pasta, and now even at Johnson's Kitchen, that's my go-to dish. I love cooking pasta.
Well, I can't wait to get some of your pastas, because folks, check out their Facebook page. The photos will blow your mind. That you guys are nailing pasta and much more there. I'm loving to hear this history, because believe it or not, I for the first few years of my life, I lived right across the river from where your grandmother was cooking in Killian on the Lower Rome Road. And yeah, I would pass the frog's breath, all the time on our way in. Now, of course, I was a little baby when we lived there, but we kept that farm as a weekend place for years and years. So I grew up going out there, and that's really neat. I want to share with y'all a comment from my friend Cherie Kinchin Wells, who I know is a friend of y'all's. And she says that you are such a beautiful couple. Terrick, you were her 5th grade student, she says, and she is blown away at the man you have become. You truly do excel at everything you do. And she since met you, Venetria, and you are such a perfect pair. She loves eating at Johnson Kitchen and seeing you and all of your beautiful kids. So that's really sweet. Cherie, thanks for chiming in.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
We love you.
We love her.
Cherie, she's the best, isn't she? Her brother Kyle and I grew up together and went to school together. And we actually worked together in the food service industry at Ponchatoula Hi-Ho when it opened back in the 90s, when it was across the street where the First Guarantee Bank is now. But just a great family, and they know good cooking there, right? Of course, the Kitchen family having Millside Grocery and the great seafood they put out. What's the old saying? It takes one to know one, Cherie. Yeah, you guys know your stuff. Well, that's really neat. So it sounds like you guys have a strong legacy on your side of the family, Venetria, of coming up with cooking, family values, and hard work. Because let's face it, the kind of things you're describing are not easy, lazy jobs, right? So you may have tapped out a half hour into that spin class or body pump class, but you are no stranger to hard work. What about you, Terrick? Tell us about other than being Cherie's fifth grader. What can you tell us about yourself?
So Terrick, 30 years old, born and raised Hammond, Louisiana. Been in Hammond just about all of my life, with the exception of moving away for college.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go off to for college?
To Las Vegas.
Whoa, that's really. I thought I moved away going down to New Orleans at Tulane. No, you really moved away.
Yeah. I got some family out in Las Vegas, and I took advantage of the opportunity to go and get some experience out in the city. And so after that, I came back home. My parents are Terrence and Margaret Johnson, born and raised. Well, my mom born and raised in Hammond. My dad, he's actually from Bruley, Louisiana.
Okay.
And so they're the pastors of our church where we serve, Kingdom Deliverance Outreach Ministry in the Tallinn, Louisiana. And so church is who I am. That's all I know is to go to church. I was kind of drugged to church, had to go to church whether I wanted to or didn't want to. And so it was actually became a part of my family as well. And so, yeah.
Well, tell us what that's like growing up in the church, because we've had a lot of preachers on the show. And, my personal background is that I'm a Catholic married to a Baptist. So I spend my Sundays in my wife's church now most of the time. But I grew up in the Catholic church as the altar boy that lived closest to or second closest to St. Joseph Church, meaning they would drag me down there to serve all the extra masses when people wouldn't show up. But man, when you are the child of the preachers, it's a totally different story. And now you guys are serving there. If I recall from Chase winning his bike a few years ago, he was a junior deacon, I think, at least at that time. So you're clearly very involved on kind of 3 generations. What was that like growing up in the church as a preacher's kid? And clearly, it's values that have stuck with you. Y'all are still at it and still serving in the church. But what do you recall from the childhood part of that experience?
So going to church is not something that you always want to do. But in my house, we didn't really have an option. We had to get up and go to church, whether it was Bible study, whether it was a prayer service, Sunday afternoon service. Whenever the church doors are open, we were obligated to be there. And so growing up, we didn't really want to go, but that was something that we had to do. And the good thing about it is it's something that helps you. Have a relationship with Christ. It helps you in every season of your life, no matter what it is you're going through. That's something that remains. That's something that you can depend on. Having a firm relationship with Jesus. Yes. And so I'm grateful for being drugged to church and being made to go to church when I didn't want to go. And so it was beneficial to get that impartation even at a young age. And so, yeah, I'm the baby of 5. And so all of us, we had no choice about going to church.
So what's the age gap between kid number 1 and the last? Because I'm number 2 of 4. We had an 18-year gap, so it was like very different experiences from top to bottom. Well, what's it like being the baby of 5, and how much older were your older siblings?
So my oldest brother is 43, I think. And
Okay,
I'm 30, so
so y'all
about
had a good
30.
little gap there, like a 13-year gap. Yeah, that's yeah,
Yep.
that's different. And then say, because I know I had a much different relationship with my brother that was 12 years older than I did with my brother that was 18 months
Yeah.
younger. We were fighting all the time over toys and friends and whatnot. And when you got one much older, it's different. We've got
Yep.
some other comments coming in, and I should have mentioned, folks. So forgive me for waiting this long. If you're watching live and you have a question or a comment for these guys, for Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, feel free to comment, and we will do our best to share your comment with Terrick and Venetria, and have them answer your questions if you have them, or say hey. So speaking of saying hey, Sarah Williams is on here
Hey,
saying
Sarah.
hey.
Sarah's one of
Trent
our
Williams had,
engineering husband.
I think he gave Sarah a heads up that this was going on, because he commented on that first. Miss Joyce Jackson, my dear friend, my family's dear friend, she said on here was sharing with us. And then Patricia Vicknair has a question. Says, did you go to cultural school there? Now this came in a few minutes ago, so I don't know whether she was talking about Vegas or the church, but I assume that was a question for you, Terrick.
No. Is she saying culinary school?
Probably that's what it. Yeah, I'm gonna guess spell check. Yeah, caught that. Probably that makes sense. Yeah, it says cultural school, but yeah, probably culinary school. Good catch.
No, we didn't go to. I didn't go. We didn't go to culinary school. Initially, I started off studying criminal justice, and then ventured off to psychology, and then kinesiology. And so I kind of played around there with a major.
Well, I guess too, when you grow up with the strong kind of cooking foundations that you guys have through family, culinary school isn't needed as much, right? Especially on the V side of the T and V equation, because when you're third generation, we've got another comment coming in here. Rosemary Gardner says, "Hey guys, you're such a great asset to the already amazing Ponchatoula community. Thank you for all you do." Miss Rosemary, thank you for sharing that. That's really sweet of you to say, and we appreciate you watching the show. To everybody who's commented here, we thank you for chiming in. Folks, we are here with Terrick and Venetria Johnson, the owners, cooks, do it all of Johnson's Kitchen in Pumpkin Center. And we're going to ask them much more about their restaurant in a bit, as well as other businesses, like Terrick's fitness business. But we've been kind of asking them about childhood and family, and they were kind enough to tell us about their love story. Next, I want to ask you because you've told us a little bit of the history of say, especially on your side, V, of the cooking. How did you guys get started in this? Because you mentioned at the outset you're new to the restaurant business, but you're not really new to the food preparation business. I think you started organically and started small and grew into this big, nice restaurant you have now. So if you wouldn't mind, just share that story with us of how y'all got started, on this journey of being restaurateurs.
So, Venetria and I, we both would cook when we were much younger. And so once we got together, that kind of just continued to happen. We just would cook at home for the family. And for our growing family, because we got to feed these kids.
Right.
And so I would just take pictures of the food, and I would just use the hashtag Johnson's Kitchen. And I would just post it on social media, and we would get like a response where people would want us to offer our food and say, "Hey, when you gonna cook this? When you gonna sell it?" We were like, no, I'm not gonna do that. And so I would continue to still just, take pictures of the food and use that hashtag Johnson's Kitchen. And eventually we sat down and we said, look, maybe we should just do this. And
so eventually a lot of non-Johnsons want to elbow our way into the kitchen, right? And get some of what they're seeing on Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And
Cool.
so what we did was we decided to do just a Saturday afternoon, because we both were still working full time. And said we'll just do this on one Saturday. And we did chicken and waffles, and it was huge.
Yum.
We had people everywhere trying to get chicken and waffles, and so we had such a good turnout. People were inquiring about, okay, when is the next sale going to be? What are you cooking next? And we were like, no.
So people are asking, what are you cooking next? When you get that kind of response, are you excited like, hey, we need to try this or that? Or are you overwhelmed trying to pump the brakes? I mean, what was going through your head at that point?
We were like, we were just playing. We were just playing.
You didn't know you had a business yet. Y'all were still thinking you're going back to your day jobs, huh?
Yeah, not at all. We were just, just giving them something, they had been asking for, and period. That was it.
That was it. We were not expecting that response, and then it just kind of happened. It just happened. We were not, like I said, we have no experience in restaurant business, no type of culinary background, besides us just wanting to be in the kitchen together, cooking. Yeah. We love to cook together. And it just, God began to order our steps. He had a plan. This is all a part of God's plan. And as we began to allow him to lead us, things just began to fall into place. So it's God's plan. He was like, y'all are going to own the restaurant. We just didn't know it.
So at what point do you start to see God's plan coming into your life and start accepting, that blessing that he's providing you? Because it sounds like you didn't set out looking for it. You were just kind of doing something cool and fun. And you didn't initially kind of just jump into it, like say on week one, like, let's quit our jobs and open a restaurant. Yeah. At what point does it dawn on you that this might be something bigger than you expected and God's placing a special opportunity in front of you?
So after a while, we committed to every Saturday. We said, we'll just do this every Saturday. And so from every Saturday, it began to be problematic for the people. They were not satisfied. And so we kind of rearranged our schedules, and we said, we'll do this on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And so we did Wednesdays and Saturdays. So 2 days a week. People were still not satisfied. And so we were kind of just listening to the people and listening to ourselves. And so during that time, we said, okay, we'll do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Maybe they'll be satisfied. And so at that time, the business started to grow into something that we could not control. We were in home. This is all out of our home. And so we had no living area. We had like
a cash register in our living room.
We had stuff everywhere.
So it sounds like this took over your home.
It took over. I'm talking about clothes smelling like fried chicken. I remember we went to church one Sunday.
Right.
And my pastor was like, "Ooh, y'all smell like food. You haven't been cooking today, but just frying chicken in your house all the time, that smell was in our clothes." And I was like, I want my house back. I think we need a restaurant.
Yeah,
that's great. And excuse me, the comedy to me is, Terrick, you're still a fitness instructor, right? So like, what kind of spin class guy shows up smelling like fried chicken? That's probably one of a kind experience, huh?
Yeah. And so at that time, we were doing meal prepping, and so we were kind of trying to have a little balance there with it. And so we were offering meal prep options for my clients, and then chicken wings and pasta for
crawfish bread.
Yeah,
I love you. This tells me you're a genius. This might be like not $1 million idea, but $1 billion idea, because you're fattening us up on one side of the equation with fried chicken and pasta and crawfish bread, and then you're getting everybody back in shape with fit meal prep and spin class. That's some pretty next level business stuff there. Let me share a few more comments here because we got some good ones coming in here. Norvisi Adu says, "Hey Terrick, so proud of y'all." And then we've got somebody here, and I apologize, I can't see your name in here on the comment, but it says, "Look at my family." And I'm betting we can go on after the show and look through the comments, and you'll see who that was. So T and Lee, I'm sorry that we, can't tell you who that is right now. Sometimes this system throws little glitches our way. But then we've got Venetria Johnson Austin here says, tell us more about your private dinners. And she also comments, what's the experience like? The local area should hear more about the personal, tailored, private dining experience in our community that you offer instead of traveling to larger cities like New Orleans, Baton Rouge, or the North Shore. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind, tell us about your private dinners and what services that you've offered there.
Okay, so yeah, we offer a private dining experience where it would just be you and your special guest, whether it's for a birthday dinner, a proposal, it could be a celebration of a birthday or an anniversary. It'll be you and just that person. We will set the table for a candlelight dinner, rose petals on the floor. We'll have some candles lit for you guys, a glass of wine. You'll have a specific menu that you can choose from. And then we provide the desserts as well. We have a nice little menu for you, and then you just end it all with a really nice dessert. But yeah, and so
that sounds amazing. Mm-hmm. And as I hear that, y'all know, because we talked about this off air. When I went and brought my mom to lunch at your place yesterday, that was a score because I scored major points with Mom, and she loved everything we had, from crawfish bread to hamburgers, you name it. But I also found out after the fact, when I was telling my wife about it, that she really had been wanting to eat there because she's been hearing all about your cooking. So now I got some making up to do. So maybe I need to up the ante and go, not just take her with the family to Johnson's Kitchens, but go private dinner style.
Yes.
That's cool. Well, this sounds really neat. So why don't we do this? Well, I'm going to ask you more about the restaurant in a bit. Okay. But while we do this, I want to hear about the transition away from full-time jobs into this. And also, Terrick, before we get into that, would you mind telling me a little bit about your fitness business? Because you mentioned earlier that eventually, you kind of graduated from your North Cyprus career to another fitness venture. So would you mind sharing that with us at this time?
Yeah. And so I started working I gained a passion for fitness maybe around 2014, 2015, and started working in the fitness industry in 2016. And that's where I thought I would be for the rest of my life. That's where I kind of, parked it. And so I worked at North Cyprus for from 2016 to 2019. And during that time, I kind of had a goal to kind of open up my own little fitness center. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I came in contact with a guy who was actually in the Mandeville area, and he was selling his complete gym. And it was perfect. It was perfect. It was just what I wanted. And so I made that purchase in November 2019, right before COVID. So, yeah. And so,
that had to be scary, huh? Not just making such a sizable purchase, but then getting slammed with COVID. And, I know for one, our family changed our fitness routine. My wife went from being scheduled to train to become a North Cyprus instructor. And then COVID hit and they canceled her training and she started doing yoga from home. So did that really throw a wrecking ball at you? I mean, that had to be a real faith moment where you had to, really put your faith in God to figure out what was coming, because that seems like a curveball none of us were expecting. Am I right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, at the start of COVID-19, of course, fitness centers were, at the top of the list, closed down, locked the doors, don't let anyone in. And so we had people calling, hey, look, cancel my membership. I'm scared. I'm not coming to the gym. Don't sign me up, cancel me. And so this is, we need this. This is what the business needs to sustain. And so it was scary, but my faith was in God. And so he was able to see us through, and we made it through the COVID-19 pandemic with all of the craziness that was going on. And so during that time, Johnson's Kitchen had already kicked off. And so I was, at the restaurant and then at the gym. back and forth, and over time it became stressful. It was a lot.
I bet, and I can see the smile on your patient wife's face there. That tells us, what they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Johnson's Kitchen's already open. What was the date y'all opened the doors on that? Give me a feel for the timeline on how kind of close back to back these two business ventures were.
So Johnson's Kitchen grand opening was January 22nd, 2020.
Okay. Wow.
2020,
Okay.
Yeah, 2020.
So yeah, see, we're talking about a very tight timeline. Talk about faith, opening two things that COVID could close or wreck, or in a tight wow. So as we sit here in 2022, and of course COVID's still it's evolved and it's out there, but it's different, and we're kind of back to a different routine. But the timeline you're talking about opening in is really one of the.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We got the year wrong. So it would have been 2021.
That's okay. Look, as long as you get the anniversary date right, Terrick, you're fine. Okay. The other ones we can mess up on. I do it all the time. But wow, yeah. So that really took a lot of faith, and it just makes me twice as happy to hear about where you are today and how successful the two of you have been, because that's humble beginnings starting during, economically terrifying times. I want to come back here to a comment. Okay. Look at my family. Thanks to my good friend, Marshall Graves. Speaking of great preachers in the area, the great Marshall Graves. I now know who said, "Look at my family," and it is another great preacher, Donald Burton, another preacher.
Okay. Yeah.
So Donald Burton did like a family member to me. Donald, if you're still watching, both of those guys have been on the show. There's Donald's comment, and here's Marshall letting me know it was Donald. And but two great guys, two great men of God, great fathers and husbands. And speaking of V's, Venetria, you're not the first. Donald's V is a brilliant woman who always whips my mom in Words with Friends or Scrabble all the time. They're buddies that play online. But yeah, beautiful family on both sides. So we see another great power couple there. Who's a beacon of fitness, right? I mean, he's like Mr. Universe. So you guys share the muscles and the faith in common. Oh, there's V. Hey, V. Glad to see you watching.
Hey. I just saw her last week.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Small world. Well, now we have two beautiful V's on the show at one time. That's cool.
And Donald actually was, I was trying to get into bodybuilding at one point, and he was actually coaching me.
Oh, man. He's so generous with his time and
Yeah.
knowledge. He's such a Renaissance man. If you ever get a chance, go back and check out his video here, because I think so many people meet Donald and they just will want to jump to a conclusion of, oh, okay, he's the bowed up cop, right? Well, yeah, he is that. And he was one of the most competitive, best bodybuilders you ever meet, but he's also like a tech geek. I mean that in a good way, like a tech genius type guy, a musician. I mean, he's got so many varied interests. And like I say, his beautiful wife, she's not just a babe. She's really smart. I mean, my mom got a master's degree with a 4.0. And she doesn't mind me probably saying that V gives her all she can handle in Words with Friends. So just great people. And here she says, hello, guys, and shares the love. So it's really neat to see that we share some friends in common there. We are, folks, here continuing to interview Mr. and Mrs. Johnson of Johnson's Kitchen, Terrick and Venetria. They've been sharing their life story with us. So let's circle back to Johnson's Kitchen. We've talked about your background in cooking and your family history there. We've talked about kind of how the business started in your house. It took over your house and smelled every bit of clothing, including your Sunday best for church of fried chicken and whatnot. And then COVID hits and you guys basically start not one, but two businesses at the same time. So how do we get from that to what I saw yesterday? When I walk into Johnson's Kitchen for the first time yesterday, just to paint the scene, I'm with my mom. We both love to eat, but we're also kind of food snobs, right? I mean, we're not afraid to call something out on being less than spectacular. And I had, frankly, very high hopes because I'd seen so much Facebook and, social media buzz about your place, heard all this great word of mouth about how great it was. It lived up to the hype, but I wasn't kidding. The service was outstanding. It was a very efficient, order process. They got our orders quickly. My mom, for example, is a stickler. When she orders an iced tea, she asks for a lot of ice. And nothing is, more of a pet peeve than when it comes back with just a few cubes. Man, y'all had ice coming out of the cup. It was like a snowball with a cone almost on top. But everything was friendly, efficient, fast. The food came out fresh, delicious. I know this sounds like an infomercial, folks. I promise I haven't taken a penny from the Johnsons, but I want to paint the picture of it was practically perfect as a meal. Okay. I'm sitting there. The table next to me, I think, had come in all the way from Mississippi. Is that right, Terrick?
Yeah.
And you know that because after cooking all this great food, you got out and worked the room and kind of personally met with everybody to ask, our stories and whatnot. So there, I see these Mississippi folks come in and taking a photo with you like, you're a celebrity or something because it's like a big deal. So how do you get there in such a short period of time? Because the restaurant business is kind of notorious for, I don't know the stats, but it's something like 8, 9 out of 10 fail, right? We see them all the time. Restaurants east and west, they come up, they go down, they fail. You guys opened during COVID and you're booming. So is there a secret to your success, or, what's the story there?
So one man can't run a show. It takes a partner and it takes a team. And so shout out to our staff. And so we're real picky about food. When we started the process of getting the menu items and all, we would cook at home and we would say, would you buy this? That was our number one question. We would eat it and taste it, and we would ask each other, would you buy this? And if it was something that we wouldn't buy, it wouldn't go on the menu. And that was how we, came up with the menu items and whatnot. And then as it relates to our staff, everyone goes to the interview process, and our number one question is, what's hospitality? And you can do have a good resume, but if you cannot answer that question to our liking, then you're not on our team, right? And so
that's a great little kind of threshold issue. I love it. So what would a good answer to that question sound like?
So hospitality is not looking to be served, but to serve. And it's not about what I want, but it's about what you want. And so that's how we look at each customer that comes in the door. What is it that you want? How can we make this visit pleasant for you? And so that's how we run our business, and we greet each customer with hospitality, whether it's a smile or
And you must have a great training process, because although we eventually met you and you came out, that wasn't until really the end of our meal. So both of you guys were in back maybe, but you were not up there in front with the two ladies that were serving us, but they were getting all this right. So is that something that y'all do? I mean, obviously you're talking about screening on the way in to find people who get it, but are you also training to kind of reinforce that as you go, or how does that work?
Well, the restaurant business is a fast-paced environment, and so we don't have much opportunity to do hands-on training, and so it's not hard to catch on. It's not hard, to display hospitality, and so we just come across people that have a good heart and are willing to serve. Because a lot of the times, at our restaurant, Venetria and I, we're the only cooks, and so we do all the cooking. And so a lot of times we don't have time, to delegate for one-on-one training per take. But
it sounds like you're leading by example, and not just in the way you're running your kitchen, but in the way you're dealing with folks when you come out. Because although you couldn't stay out long in that dining area with us patrons, the customers, while you were there, I'm sure these ladies who are running the front of the house are kind of watching how you're dealing with people and seeing how,
Absolutely.
And that's, Joyce Jackson here says the hospitality is fantastic. And of course I would agree with that. Let me ask you this. when you nail it, as you did yesterday when we were there, whether it's that table, that family from Mississippi that drove in, or the Layrisson, mother and son, how does that make you feel? You guys seem to really get a joy from what you do, but why don't you tell me, how do you feel when people come into your restaurant and just leave there full, happy, feeling good about that meal? What's that make you feel like on the inside?
It let us know that God is pleased, because ultimately you want to be doing something that pleases the Father. And if people can come in and enjoy a meal, and the most thing that they always say, they'll come and they'll sit. They enjoy the presence there, and so we come in and we play gospel music and Christian music, and it kind of set the tune and set the atmosphere for people to come in, even if they're having a bad day, where they can come in and just kind of reset and refocus, get a good meal, and kind of just go back and try to tackle life. And so that lets us know that, it makes us feel really good that this is a place where they can come and release,
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, Fee, go ahead.
We hear a lot of our customers, they come and they just always say, it feels so peaceful in here. It just feels so peaceful. But
Absolutely, it does. Yeah.
I tell the girls, the cashiers, when they come in and they put the worship music on, I always mess with them. I say, go ahead and set the atmosphere. Like, you got to set the tone for the day. And
right.
we literally welcome and invite the presence of the Lord to be in Johnson's kitchen, just to rest there. And even as we're preparing the food, we're blessing it. We're praying over it. I'm praying over it. I'm saying, Lord, just as they eat this food, just bless them in a mighty way. May the food not just be pleasing to the belly, but may they be pleasing in your eyesight. May you just love on them even as they're eating. Every bite, I'm blessing it. I'm praying over it. So it's the presence of God.
Yeah, I love that you're sharing that. That's just beautiful. And it's clearly working for the business, for you, and for those of us that actually go there to get fed. Miss Rosemary Gardner back again makes a good comment here. Don't forget to remind us about the location, the hours. So tell us about where you are there in Pumpkin Center, when you're open, and kind of what y'all serve for lunch, dinner, you name it.
So we're located on Pumpkin Center Road. The address is 10250 Park Place, Hammond, Louisiana. If you're coming off of the interstate, we're on the right-hand side. We're about a half a mile off of the interstate on the right-hand side. And it's that sweet. We're right on side of Enviro. Am I saying it right?
Okay.
So, yeah, and our hours are Monday through Friday, 11 until 6.
Okay. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm glad we talked that Miss Rosemary reminded us to talk about the location, because one of the main reasons I wanted to get y'all on the show, in addition to sharing this great restaurant and your story, is to talk a little bit about Pumpkin Center, because Pumpkin Center is this kind of very interesting part of the world, and I think you two are a perfect example of that. We have, a real Springfield woman here and a real Hammond man here, and both of y'all have deep roots in both places, right? And Pumpkin Center is kind of where this community comes together. What you're on the Ponchatoula.com, Ponchatoula live show, because historically people that live out there, and I know this because my own uncle lived there, just really a few blocks from where y'all are on Pumpkin Center Road when I was a kid, they often consider themselves Ponchatoula people, because it's Ponchatoula High School district, right? So your kids will go to Ponchatoula High School. You're shopping often down there, but you technically have a Hammond address. But then in the old days, if you're a graybeard like me and you have a landline, you had a Springfield phone number, right? So, but it's not like Ponchatoula, Hammond, or Springfield, an incorporated city of its own, right? So it's kind of this melting pot where you can come from any of these three towns. The three of us are each born in one of those three towns, Ponchatoula, Hammond, Springfield. And I know, for example, when we lived out there in Killian, the Springfield area, my mom would talk about how we came through Pumpkin Center Road to get to the interstate. So if we wanted to go to Baton Rouge, you had to go through Pumpkin Center. If you wanted to go to Covington, same deal. So what do y'all think about that? Coming from Hammond, coming from Springfield, now meeting in the middle there. What's that Pumpkin Center area like to run a business in and be in day to day?
The Pumpkin Center area has really been a blessing. We have met so many different people. I just feel like, I know you say it's kind of like it's a melting pot. I'm looking at it like a bridge. Like
Ah, that's even
we're
better.
being the
Absolutely.
bridge.
Right.
We're being the bridge as well for everybody to come together and kind of unite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if I can be honest, when I first told my grandmother that we were gonna open a restaurant on Pumpkin Center, she was like, "What? What are y'all doing? I
Right.
don't think that's the right area."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is the right area. God
Hmm.
literally led me to the building. So I knew
Yeah.
that that was the right location for us. And so, like you say, it's a way for everybody to meet up at Johnson's Kitchen. We have so many people that travel from Mississippi, Alexandria. We had somebody coming through from Mexico that
Whoa.
stopped by a few weeks ago.
Wow.
So
That's
I feel
cool.
like it's the bridge where everybody, we all come together like one big melting pot, and we just come together in the presence of God while we eat some good food. I love the area. I
Yeah.
love it. So yeah,
Well,
I
the
love
area
that.
loves you, and I can tell you, you're right. People, they're coming in from all over, but the buzz here locally is not restrained to just that kind of west of Hammond, Ponchatoula, Pumpkin Center area. Folks all over are talking about it. When my wife was working at Walker High School, people were talking about Johnson's Kitchen. Now she's at Ponchatoula Junior High. Everybody's wanting to get out there. Y'all are gonna probably run out of seafood stuff, baked potatoes tomorrow, like usual, because they are, the hot commodity, and everybody wants to get there. So, um, let me ask you this question, and if you don't mind, I'd like to ask each of you individually to answer this. Um, what else would you like our community to know about yourself personally? You Tarek individually, or you Venetria individually. Tell us about yourself a little more, and if there's something I haven't asked about that you think you'd like to share, or our community would like to know, please share that now.
Well, if you follow us on Johnson's Kitchen Facebook, we go live on Facebook, and we like to kind of interact with the public and see who our customers are, and kind of get to know them a little bit more.
That's
And we
cool.
do a thing called Baba Trivia every Friday, where we give away free food. And
Is it the same time every Friday?
it's not the same time. We usually go live Friday mornings. Friday mornings we'll go live,
Okay.
and so we'll play Bible trivia, where we'll ask a question from the Bible, and whoever comments the correct answer first, they'll get an opportunity to win some free food. And I said that to say, we're real humble people, and we're real transparent. And so on that live broadcast, you get to see more of our personality, and get to learn more about us. And we're not just we're relational people, so we like to
Yeah.
know who you are and let you know who we are. Because ultimately, you're supporting us and you're giving us, your hard-earned money, and so we want you to know, who you're supporting.
Yeah.
And so that's why we like to go live on Facebook, so that they can
I
kind of
love
get
that. You're a family business, and you're letting us get to know the family. And
yeah.
that's so neat. V, what about you? What would you like to share?
Um, I was sitting here thinking,
I know I'm putting you on the spot. Forgive me for that, but I always, I'm not a professional interviewer. This is just a hobby for me, so I don't do a great job of asking all the questions I should. And this is kind of my little way of trying to give you a shot to talk about whatever I miss, because there's always something I miss.
Um, only thing I could think of is just encouraging the people. If you, you feel like it's something that you are inspired to do, but you really just don't know how to do it, be prayerful. If God is leading you somewhere, step out on faith. Believe Him. If He says that He's gonna do it, then He will. Because myself, I was working in the court system for the 21st district for almost 5 years, and I did not want to quit my job to start a restaurant. That was the last thing that I
Yeah.
wanted to do. I thought I was gonna retire from my job, and I literally cried when I had to resign. I didn't want to do this,
Right.
but God was leading me into it, so I wanted to be obedient. So I would just encourage you to be obedient, listen to the voice of God, and if He's leading you to it, He's gonna provide the provision that you need to excel. And so I'm just thanking God for all that He is doing through Johnson's Kitchen. He's just opening up so many doors. So we're just blessed to be here with you, Attorney Parker. We thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And I love that you offered advice to people who might be at a similar crossroads. It kind of leads me to want to ask a few questions, if you don't mind, because the two of you are so successful at such a young age, right? I mean, it's one thing to have your own business when you're gray beard like me, but you guys got out there in your 20s and took major leaps of faith and did it with 4 kiddos, right? So you did it when you had real responsibilities at home. You put your faith in God, you put your trust in yourself and your abilities, and it's paid off. If you were speaking to, let's just describe them as maybe younger versions of yourself. And what I mean by that are younger people who are thinking about doing something like you've done, bet on themselves, whether it's a fitness instructor looking to buy his own gym, maybe in a wild time like COVID or whenever. That's scary. That'd be scary on the best day of the best economy. And whether it's somebody who's a great home cook and maybe needs that extra vote of confidence to open their own restaurant, their own catering business, whatever, but maybe doesn't feel the confidence to do that because they haven't ever done it or didn't go to culinary school or whatever. What would your advice be to young people who kind of want to be like you when they grow up?
So it may sound cliche, like Nike says, just do it.
Yeah.
And you just have to just do it. You have to do it scared. You have to do it broke. You have to do it unsure. And like she mentioned, we're young, and so we don't know it all. We're inexperienced, and we don't know everything, but we're learning. And so don't allow fear to stop you from doing something that you really, really know that you're called to do, or even something that you're passionate about. You just have to do it. And people come into the restaurant all the time and they ask to talk, and we are not afraid to share what worked for us and what got us in the position we are now. And our number one response is to just do it, even as it relates to cooking. If you want to open up a restaurant, look here, start now. If if it's just hot dogs, if you do hot dogs once a week, hot dogs and chips and Kool-Aid. Do it and be consistent.
Right.
Be consistent with it. So if you're gonna do it, set that time. And I know a lot of people talk to us, and their number one concern is leaving or transitioning from like a full-time job. And they're like, this is what my security is. I don't want to leave it. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to. So just do it and be consistent at it.
And be prayerful.
Yeah. That's great advice. Joyce Jackson here says faith versus fear. What a great way to put it. Thank you for sharing that, Joyce. That's great advice. V, anything you want to add to that? I know you just gave us a great advice, but anything more to add to what your husband has so eloquently said?
That's pretty much it. A lot of times we kind of think alike. So he was saying just do it. Yeah, sometimes you have to do it.
If you two are anything like me and Brandy, you probably came up with that great idea, and now he's getting to say it and kind of take credit for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all are a great couple. You seem to really support one another and be just like a great fit. Let me ask you this: what's a day in the life like at Johnson Kitchen? Because I think a lot of us can look at this and, man, it sounds pretty dreamy. You own multiple businesses. You were able to, quit your 9-to-5 jobs, even though you did it crying, V. But what's a day in the life like? Because my guess is there's a lot of hard work we don't see there in the front of the house in the restaurant, from getting up early to prepping the kitchen to, cooking in the heat, whatever. But what's that like for folks who are thinking about what a restaurant life might be like?
A day in the life of, I won't just say Johnson's Kitchen, but the Johnsons. That's because that's with the children and all, and then you get the kids together, then you go to the restaurant. But we're getting up early, we're waking up, we're getting the kids dressed, we're making sure they got breakfast, making sure the boys have all of their stuff for sports and all. And then we're getting them off to school, dropping the babies off at daycare. And then myself, I get to the restaurant first. If I need to go make a store run in between, I may do that after I get the kids off to school, go to the store. Then by that time, I'm making my way to Johnson's Kitchen. I'm beginning to open up, I'm prepping, and then my staff begin to come in. So I normally get there first, and then the staff comes in and help. And then, like he mentioned, we cook all of the dishes ourselves. So we're cooking, we're getting ready for 11 o'clock when the customers start to pour in. But it's busy, it's hectic, I won't lie. We're normally pressed for time, sometimes running late, and I'm calling him, Terrick, where you at? Where you at? And he's probably saying, I'm at the bank getting changed.
Right.
Or he may be on the phone with, you know, dealing with stuff with our registers. If we're having issues with the computers, I let him kind of handle it. I handle just ordering the food, dealing with our food vendors and things like that. But yeah, we're there until we close at 6. We normally leave at about 7.
Yeah.
So Johnson's Kitchen is pretty much our life. Thank God for our village that helps us with the children, because I'll have my grandmother getting the kids off the bus. We don't have to leave the restaurant, go pick the babies up from daycare. We bring them back to the restaurant for a little while before we close. And so sometimes we have 2 babies, well, 3-year-old and 2-year-old, running around the restaurant for the last hour.
Yeah.
So it's hectic. And then we get home and we're feeding them, getting them in the tub. And by that time, we sit down. And that's maybe around like 9:30, 10. And we're just talking, catching up on what happened, who did we see, and we're just, oh my goodness, did you see the people that came from Mississippi today? Did you see Mr. So-and-so? We're catching up. And then we're winding down, getting ready to start it all over again the next day.
Well, that sounds like a beautiful place to close, because you have just described a beautiful day in the life of not just Johnson's Kitchen, but the Johnson family. And so I thank you for sharing that glimpse into your business, into your life, into your family. I know that our viewers have enjoyed it, and you guys are just the most charming, wonderful couple. And I really thank you for sharing your time. I promised you could get back to those babies and your other kids in an hour or so. So if you don't mind, I'm going to close with Miss Rosemary Gardner here. Says, thank God for young, successful entrepreneurs in our area. Punchy rocks. And she is so right. She says, what a testament to the younger generations, you know, and the children in our community. And she says it's not surprising, because our community supports folks here like no other. So, Rosemary, you make a great point, and I thank you for sharing that. Terrick, Venetria, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And know that you have big supporters here. We just met. I just started eating at your place. I can promise you we will be back soon. I took my mama yesterday, and I promised my wife and boys we will return tomorrow, and we will see y'all soon. So thank you both very much. To our viewers, our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we will close with our last comment that I see here. Joyce Jackson says, we love the Johnsons. Isn't that true? Thank you all, and we will see you next week. Take care.